In this video, we will be reviewing the AI Major EA MT5 by Indra Maulana. Stick around to the end to see if this is a real EA worth your time or just another MQL5 scam. This video is sponsored by Prosperity Algo and our free Golden Time Bomb Expert Advisor. Do you want to make 100+% annual returns through automating the London breakout and the opening range breakout? Then click the link in the description. So here we can see that the developer is leaning heavily on the use of AI to explain how this bot works. And here in particular, they're saying that they're using specially developed AI models which works really well for trading, that are not general, as well as the fact that this bot does not use any dangerous strategies like martingale or hedging, and that each trade has a profit and a stop loss target, so all of which are very good signs. We can also see that this bot trades a variety of different pairs, including the Euro US dollar, the Aussie dollar, and the USD CAD, and the Euro GBP. It also trades on the M30 timeframes. And so far, we don't necessarily see too much on how the bot actually makes trading decisions, but there's a lot of emphasis on the fact that it uses a bunch of different AI tools to make decisions, which are backed up by a variety of different indicators and patterns, such as here they're saying they're using hundreds of patterns and hundreds of indicators to actually train their models. And this isn't necessarily a bad thing, because quite often when you develop AI-based models, you will use a lot of different indicators as data points to actually train the AI. However, we still need to have an actual underlying strategy, which is making trading decisions. Because if you just try and train an AI model on every single tick, it typically won't be able to find any information, or won't be able to actually find a good relationship. So that's why it's a little bit suspicious here, because we're not seeing that there's actually an underlying technical analysis strategy. But we can keep going through here, and once again she's referencing that there's tons of different data points which are underlying the AI model, and we can see a few different inputs here too, and some FAQs. But unfortunately, we're unable to see how it's actually making trading decisions. At the same time, there's no live signal, so that's also not an ideal situation. So far we're seeing that it trades currency pairs, it uses maybe a higher time frame, supposedly it uses AI, but we're not seeing any sort of documentation or information here on how it actually uses an AI model, be it for instance, a web request to a large language model, maybe a file which includes a pre-trained AI model. We're unfortunately not seeing any of that. So now let's hop over into MT5 to actually test it. So here I've taken the liberty of downloading the Expert Advisor and running a quick back test. What we can see from the graph is it actually looks really, really good. And originally I saw just a fairly smooth equity curve here. So I wanted to go and run a longer back test. What we can see here is that from 2022, the results were actually, at least in the back test, quite good. If we go to the back test tab here, we can see that we indeed have a high win rate, as well as the average profit trade being significantly smaller than the average loss trade. But that almost perfectly matches what we're seeing here in the graph. This staircase style equity curve is typically very indicative of this high win rate, inverted risk reward system. So all of that is actually looking really good to date. But what's quite suspicious looking to me, especially because we don't see how the bot runs, is as soon as this thing was published on the 19th of November, that's roughly here. And then just a few days later, it then all of a sudden started falling off. So that could very well be a perfectly normal drawdown. However, still, it's not exactly a super good sign. If the developer was telling us how this worked in more detail, it would really help to get rid of a lot of suspicion. Also, if they provided a live signal. But because we're seeing a beautiful equity curve, but not a manipulated equity curve, it could just be an over-optimized equity curve for a few years with an immediate fall off upon launch, that's not a great sign either. However, it's always good to give people the benefit of the doubt. So you never know, perhaps this is a true system and it was just a normal drawdown period. But from that equity curve, and just from how the bot actually appears to be running, it doesn't look to be a history reader. So the one thing to look out for is simply over-optimization. And we can quickly go here, and it's running on, just double check, we're running on the M30 as it should. And it's making these look like more mean reverting trades to me. So we're kind of pushing away and taking long and up, and then here going, yeah. So these are counter trend, more mean reverting trades because it's kind of a push down and then back up. And they seem to be relatively slight trades too, which makes sense. They're not huge take profit levels. Let's keep fast forwarding here real quick. And each trade has a stop loss and a take profit, which is also really, really good. Let's look at the times maybe. That might be giving us a better indication of how it's running. But unfortunately not, because it's not a night scalper. They're running at just about every time of the day. We're not seeing any indicators either, so they're not giving us a ton of information to work off of. But I would venture that there's likely some hard-coded indicators here, because they don't necessarily appear to be price action based. Perhaps a candlestick pattern. But let me just pause it real quick and go back to see if we can analyze it in more detail. So I'm not seeing any particular candlestick patterns, because sometimes they're kind of happening on small candles, sometimes they're happening randomly. They appear to be market executions, not pending orders. And here, like sometimes you're entering on green candles, sometimes you're entering on red, but going in the opposite direction, or there's no real rhyme or reason exactly behind it. But I would venture that there's some sort of hard-coded indicator, which is likely driving the trading decisions. Maybe just to kind of wrap up, this is definitely a mean reverting system. I would venture that there's probably some sort of hard-coded indicator which is making the decisions. However, like we just don't, I can't confidently say this is not an over-optimized system just because we don't know how it works. There's no actual AI being used here because there's no indication as to if there's some sort of API to call from, if there's some sort of embedded model. So unless they're secretly embedding it very deep into the code or they completely hard-coded it, it seems a little bit suspicious. And also the fact that like the back test, it looks like a non-purely manipulated history reader style back test. At the same time, it might very well be over optimized. So my takeaway is we just don't have enough information here because they're not really telling us how it works. There's no insanely discernible strategy, which is not a great sign either. However, you're more than welcome to reach out to the developer. Perhaps there's something that I'm missing here. But for now, I would definitely wait until a live signal is published because we're just not able to see concretely what the strategy is behind it, and we're not being given information to help us with that. Guys, hope you enjoyed the video. Take care. Have a great day.